State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, defendant. Count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by first-degree murder. Count 3, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft. Count 4, first-degree murder. Count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder.
The crimes are unimaginable. Lori Vallow Daybell stood trial for the murder of her own children, 16-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ. She was also accused of killing Tammy Daybell, the wife of her current husband Chad. The judge in the case did not allow cameras in the Idaho courtroom during testimony, but we have audio and transcripts of the proceedings. Here was prosecutor Lindsay Blake.
Money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. It didn't matter what obstacles she had to remove to get what she wanted. And if it was a person, it didn't matter who.
Lori was a beauty contestant. Anybody you spoke to who knew Lori back then said that she was like the mother of the year. The problem really seems to have started when Lori started following Chad Daybell. Chad was a podcaster and author of doomsday novels.
Then, in late 2019, Lori's 2 children mysteriously disappeared.
Meantime, Lori and Chad are on the beach in Hawaii having the time of their lives. They get married, and they wouldn't talk to police at all, and they wouldn't tell anybody where the kids were. Even after Lori was arrested, she still refused to say anything about where the kids were.
How come you're not telling anybody where your kids are?
People looked all over the country for these kids.
Months after vanishing into thin air, the remains of JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan were found buried here in Chad Daybell's backyard.
What we have gathered was that Chad had this belief that some people who were on this earth weren't really the people they were supposed to be. They were zombies. And the only way to release their spirits was to kill the bodies. And if that's not disturbing enough, Lori started referring to her children as zombies.
She had this grading system where she could read people's auras, and they were either dark or light, and she had described Tylee as having a dark spirit. I feel like she's kind of a monster.
But defense attorney Jim Archibald claimed there was no way for Lori to have committed the crimes.
Lori Vallow was in her own apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, when JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan died, and Lori was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell died.
I've thought a lot about why this story hits such a chord with a wide variety of people. And I think it's because these kids, and then when you throw in the cult aspect of this, we've certainly seen movies with all of this, but I'm not sure we've ever seen anything like this in real life, in true crime.
In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, answer guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Count 7, guilty.
Can you tell me where your kids are? Did you do something to your children? Where are your children? Welcome back, Lori. Where are your kids? Anything you want to say, Lori? Lori?
Beginning in 2019, Lori Vallow Daybell spent months denying her missing children were in danger. Many, including her sister Summer Shiflett, believed her at the time.
Something's not adding up here. Where are they? Where is JJ and Tylee?
It's a great question. We would love to know the answer to that. We don't know, but we know We were very confident that Lori would never harm her children, ever.
But during 4 weeks of testimony, the prosecution chipped away at the facade of the former beauty contestant until it exposed Lori Vallow Daybell for the person it claimed she really was.
Prosecutors have painted a picture of somebody who was ruthless.
Morgan Lowe is an investigative reporter and CBS News consultant.
Somebody who would do anything to get what she wants.
According to the prosecution, Lori was a master puppeteer, pulling the strings in a heinous murder plot that left 3 innocent people dead. Her 16-year-old daughter, Tylee Ryan, her 7-year-old son, JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife of almost 30 years.
It didn't matter what obstacle she had to remove to get what she wanted.
48 Hours has been following the twisted saga of the so-called cult mom and her paramour Chad Daybell since the story broke in 2019, months before the remains of her 2 children were discovered in shallow graves in Chad Daybell's backyard. When we started, it was almost inconceivable to friends like April Raymond that she would harm her children.
She did everything for JJ, everything for Tylee. They were the center of her world. And so I'm not sure what hijacked that priority.
April met Lori in 2015 in Hawaii. At the time, Lori was married to businessman Charles Vallow. The couple were raising 2 children, Tylee, Lori's teenage daughter from a former marriage, and their adopted son JJ, who was diagnosed with autism.
JJ was very difficult to take care of. So I really admired how patient she was with him and how much care she took of him.
His big sister was just as devoted to him, says Tylee's best friend, Vaisia Itaiho.
I loved being around JJ and Tylee. Tylee was really protective over JJ, and she was kind of like another mama to him.
Are you taking a video of my child?
Your child?
My child.
I just kind of loved how she would just play with him and just always have like a really good time with him. And I really loved JJ. He's the sweetest soul I've ever met.
But around 2017, friends say Lori's relationships with her kids began to shift. About the time she started reading the books of Chad Daybell.
I've recently released my autobiography.
Daybell was a former gravedigger turned doomsday novelist and podcaster from Rexburg, Idaho.
He tapped into this prepper element out there, people who wanted to prepare for Armageddon.
Lori met Chad for the first time in 2018 at a conference in St. George, Utah.
The first time Chad met Lori, he told her that they had been married in a past life. He said he was James and she was Elena, and that they had lived this biblical life in the past. And instead of scaring her off, that seems to have attracted her.
Even though Lori was still married to Charles Vallow, and Chad was married to the mother of his 5 children, Tammy Daybell, Lori's friend Melanie Gibb testified the 2 soon began an affair.
Did Lori ever tell you directly that she and Chad would meet at hotels or motels?
Yes.
Did Lori ever indicate to you whether or not she and Chad were engaged in an affair?
She would just share that they were intimate.
Witnesses testified that Lori took on Chad's extreme religious beliefs, says Morgan Lowe.
Lori believed that she was chosen to lead the 144,000 after the apocalypse, to lead the survivors of the human race to an eternal life while the rest of society burned.
She also believed she had been appointed another, more ominous role, says April.
Part of her mission on Earth was to eliminate the darkness, the demonic, the evil.
April says one of those evil spirits, according to Lori, was her then husband, Charles Vallow.
The way she had explained it to me about Charles was that Charles was already dead and that there was a demon living inside of him.
For the first time, we heard at trial that Lori held what she called casting ceremonies.
It involved getting into a circle with other like-minded followers and casting out dark spirits from people, getting rid of demons.
Lori's friend Zulema Pastenes attended several of these castings.
There are certain spirits that can only be cast out by prayer and fasting.
Here she is on the stand talking about one of the demons Lori claimed was living inside Charles.
And what was that spirit or demon's name?
I believe they called him Ned.
Ned Schneider, to be precise.
Why don't you come over here?
In January of 2019, Charles was so spooked by Lori's ramblings about the demon named Ned, he called police.
What did she say yesterday?
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles."
Their conversation was recorded on the officer's body cam.
Okay. So what makes her a danger to herself and to others?
She threatened me, murder me, kill me.
She threatened to murder you?
Yes.
In the winter of 2019, Charles changed the beneficiary of his $1 million life insurance policy from Lori to his sister, Kay Woodcock, JJ's biological grandmother. After almost 13 years of marriage, Charles filed for divorce.
She's up here, just scared the crap out of me.
Charles Vallow had good reason to be scared. On the morning of July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow went to the Chandler, Arizona home of his estranged wife, Lori Vallow, to pick up JJ and take him to school.
He goes into the house. Lori and Tylee and JJ are there, and so is Alex Cox.
Alex Cox, Lori's brother. At trial, Lori's friend Zulema Pastenes, who would later marry Alex, testified that Chad had assigned him a mission ordained by God.
Chad had told him that he was going to be a warrior, a defender, and the sole purpose for him coming to this earth was so that he could be Lori's protector and defender.
Did Alex believe this?
Absolutely.
Shortly after Charles entered Lori's home that summer morning in 2019, Alex Cox, the defender, shot him dead.
911, where is your emergency?
At 8:36 a.m., Alex calmly called 911.
Is he breathing?
I can't tell.
He said, "I need to report a shooting. I shot my brother-in-law in self-defense."
And is he hurt or is he alive? Or?
Yeah, there's blood. He's not moving.
The police arrived and shot this video of Alex on the curb outside the home. Alex told them Charles and Lori got into a fight.
So you get in an argument? What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out.
Alex told them he got between Charles and Lori and shot Charles in the chest when Charles charged at him. At some point, Lori, Tylee, and JJ got into the car and left.
Lori takes JJ to school, and she comes back later with Tylee.
Police body cam caught the moment. Tylee's face was blurred because she was a minor.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
What was striking about the footage that we saw was that there's no remorse, there's no, "Oh my gosh, my husband's dead."
Lori, Alex, and Tylee were questioned at the police headquarters. All told similar stories of self-defense and were sent home. 3 days later, Chad and Lori were exchanging steamy texts. Here's FBI agent Doug Hart reading one on the stand.
"I need so badly to just gently kiss you for hours. It would likely lead to other activities. Likely or luckily, it would luckily lead to nakedness."
But prosecutors say the lovers were in for a big surprise. They were about to find out that Charles had changed the beneficiary of that $1 million life insurance policy. Here's Detective Nathan Duncan reading Lori's text to Chad after she found out.
I just got the letter from the insurance company saying that I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart.
This is one of the strongest points that prosecutors have made, is that Lori was motivated by money. She wanted Charles's money.
According to prosecutors, Lori started drawing the Social Security death benefits JJ received from his father, Charles Vallow. She moved with her 2 kids to Rexburg, Idaho, not far from where Chad Daybell lived with his wife, Tammy. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, her designated defender, moved into the same complex.
He was there to take care of the problems.
Prosecutors alleged Lori's first problem was her 16-year-old daughter, Tylee Ryan. According to Zalema, Lori told her that a demon named Hillary had taken over Tylee's body.
Now, if somebody is possessed by a demon, are those people dangerous?
They're considered to be dark and to bring only bad things to happen. Yeah. So yes, would be dangerous.
These are the last known pictures of Tylee Ryan. On September 8, 2019, she was with Lori, JJ, and Alex at Yellowstone National Park. The 16-year-old was never seen again.
Tylee was JJ's protector. Once she was gone, JJ had nobody. He had nobody to protect him or watch out for him.
Just 2 weeks later, JJ Vallow went missing. This photo of JJ wearing red pajamas was taken on September 22, 2019. It is the last known photo of him. Melanie Gibb, who was staying at Lori's house that evening, says she saw Alex take JJ upstairs, she believes, to Lori's room. But the little boy was nowhere to be seen the next morning.
Is that when she told you JJ was a zombie?
Yes.
Melanie Gibb told prosecutors Alex Cox believed JJ was a zombie as well.
He said he 100% believed it.
According to their religious teachings, a zombie had to be killed. The body had to die.
And the body count was climbing. According to prosecutors, Lori and Chad had identified another evil spirit in the way.
What we learned from witness after witness is that Chad told some people that his wife was not going to be around much longer and that he was going to have a life before Tammy and a life after Tammy.
The week after JJ was last seen, and 2 months before the world would learn that the children were missing, Lori was planning her 5th wedding. At trial, prosecutors called an FBI specialist to the stand.
Did you learn whether or not there was ever a successful purchase of wedding rings?
There were. On October 2nd, 2019.
There was just one problem. Chad was still married to Tammy Daybell.
But that was about to change. Garth Daybell is one of 5 Daybell children.
If I was asleep and I heard a thump and heard my dad yell, "Garth, Garth, come quick."
Garth found his mother, 49-year-old Tammy Daybell, lying half on the bed, half on the floor.
I just ran over and picked her up and put her back on the bed. I said to my dad, I said, "I think she's dead."
The coroner initially determined Tammy died of natural causes, and the family declined an autopsy. Chad's neighbor, Alice Gilbert, testified that a week later, he had already moved on.
We asked him how he was doing, and he said, "Actually, I'm doing really good." And that he'd met the woman he was going to marry.
Did you find, did it surprise you that he seemed to be doing so well?
Yes, we were shocked.
Alice and her husband, Todd Gilbert, met Lori shortly after.
They came to the house, and his arm was around her, and She was giggling and laughing, and they looked like teenagers.
Alice says the conversation turned to children.
Then Chad said, and she recently just lost a daughter. So I told her, oh, I'm sorry. And she said, thank you.
This is significant because at that time, Lori is still telling her sister and everybody else that the kids were okay. This is like a slip up, an early slip up, an admission against interest here.
It did not seem to worry Chad and Lori on their big day. 17 days after Tammy Daybell's death, there was Lori dancing on the beach in Hawaii as her new husband strummed his ukulele, exchanging those rings. According to investigators, the cost of the wedding trip was courtesy of the groom's dead wife's life insurance.
Little do they know that the clock is now ticking.
Soon after the newlyweds returned to Idaho, the Rexburg police came knocking on Lori's door, looking for JJ. His grandmother, Kay Woodcock, had asked authorities to do a welfare check. The conversation was recorded on the officer's body cam. Here's Lori talking about JJ.
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
Who's the friend he's with?
My friend Melanie.
Chad called that friend, Melanie Gibb, who testified he asked her not to pick up the phone when the police called. Later, she says Lori asked her to lie and tell the police that JJ was staying with her in Arizona.
And I felt in a very weird and uncomfortable position, and I really did not know what to do.
At first, Melanie Gibb wasn't forthcoming to the police, but 12 days later, she made a call to Lori and Chad and secretly recorded it.
Is JJ safe?
He is safe and happy.
Chad said they couldn't tell her where JJ was for her own security.
If you knew, that puts you in a danger.
Melanie handed that secret recording to authorities, and investigators launched a nationwide search. But not just for JJ. They would soon learn that his big sister, Tylee, was also missing.
A search for 2 children from Idaho.
Listen up, you may know something.
The children mysteriously disappeared.
It was huge news, especially to Lori's new stepchildren.
When did you know that she had 2 kids?
I first heard of her children when a detective came to my work and asked me about them. I had never heard of them before that point.
So even after your father weds Lori, you didn't know that there were 2 kids in the picture at that point?
I did not.
As the hunt for the children intensified, Lori and Chad again headed to Hawaii, but the honeymoon was over.
He's valuable, sir.
Kauai authorities caught up with Lori by the pool. She would be arrested on child abandonment charges and extradited to Idaho.
Please be seated.
Chad, the loyal husband, by her side. But now Chad himself was under suspicion. With the children missing, that's when the police took a closer look at the death of Tammy. Her body had been exhumed on December 11th, 2019.
The Utah State Medical Examiner immediately saw bruising on her body, and he determined that Tammy died of asphyxiation. The medical examiner testified that that bruising was consistent with somebody being restrained, meaning she was held down and suffocated.
Alex's wife, Zulema Pastenes, says that when she heard about Tammy, she started pressing Alex for answers. By then, she says Lori and Chad had cut Alex off. Here she is on the stand, talking about when she asked Alex what was happening.
What did he say?
He was very quiet and unresponsive, and then he said, I think I'm being their fall guy. I said, fall guy for what? What is it that you have done? What have you done that you would be the fall guy for? And then he said, either I am a man of God or I am not.
Here's the prosecutor addressing that mysterious statement.
What exactly Alex meant by this or what he knew, we may never know, because Alex Cox died the next day on December 12th of 2019.
In a truth is stranger than fiction plot twist, the man Lori and Chad designated her defender, her brother, Alex Cox, suddenly dropped dead. An autopsy determined of natural causes.
That was a jaw-dropping moment. Right before his death, it does look like Alex was second-guessing what he had done and why Chad and Lori had asked him to do what he did.
They say dead men don't talk, but this one did. Alex Cox's cell phone harbored a tale of horrors waiting to be discovered in Chad Daybell's backyard. And it would give prosecutors the evidence they had been waiting for. On June 9th, 2020, law enforcement descended on Chad Daybell's backyard. According to the prosecution, Alex Cox's cell phone data placed him here for 2 hours the day after Tylee Ryan was last seen. Authorities later discovered her remains in this same spot. It was an area the Daybell family once used as a pet cemetery. It now contained Tylee's badly burned remains. She had been dismembered. Detective Ray Hermosillo took the stand and described finding what was left of Tylee.
There was a partial human skull underneath the melted bucket.
Alex's cell phone led them to another section of the yard about 50 yards away under a shade tree. Investigators started digging. They removed a layer of rocks. Beneath the rocks, they found wooden planks. Below that, a layer of black plastic.
One of the crime scene investigators cut a hole in the top of this plastic, and beneath the black plastic was some white plastic, like plastic bag. And they cut through that.
And that's when we were able to see what appeared to be brown human hair sticking out from the white plastic.
It was JJ. He was still dressed in his red pajamas and covered head to toe in duct tape.
Several layers of duct tape from his chin to his forehead area. His arms were duct tape with several layers of duct tape. His feet were also duct taped and bound.
Forensic pathologist Garth Warren testified how JJ had died.
I determined the cause of death to be asphyxia by plastic bag over the head and duct tape covering the mouth.
It's unimaginable what his last minutes of life were like.
Experts couldn't determine Tylee's cause of death because of the condition of her remains, but prosecutors alleged the way in which both children were killed aligned with Chad and Lori's teachings about demons and zombies.
Zulema testifies that if they're trying to cast a demon or a zombie out of somebody, there's 2 minutes after the casting where another demon can enter that person. And the only way to prevent that is to burn the person or bind them. Tylee was burned, JJ was bound.
Despite all the talk of zombies and demons, prosecutors argued that Lori's true motive to murder her kids was much more mundane.
Tylee had already lost her father, and she received Social Security benefits because of that. Tylee had money. Lori wanted it. Tylee's gone. JJ also was entitled to Social Security benefits. The defendant didn't want to have to take care of JJ anymore. She wanted the money. JJ's gone.
While the prosecution's case was mostly circumstantial, DNA matching Tylee's profile was found on a shovel and pickaxe in a garage on the Daybell property. A forensic specialist testified they also found a finger and palm print belonging to Alex Cox on one of the black plastic bags that covered JJ.
Investigators also found one strand of hair that was stuck in the tape that was around the bag. DNA showed that that hair belonged to Lori Vallow. That's significant because that's really the only physical evidence they have that ties Lori to JJ at the time of his death.
Some of the most powerful testimony in the prosecution's case came from Lori's own family. They played an emotional jailhouse phone call between Lori and her only surviving child, son Colby Ryan.
You ripped my heart out, and you ripped out everyone in this family's heart out.
Then Lori's sister, Summer Shiflett, took the stand. She told prosecutors that she believed Lori when she told her the children were safe.
Did that change?
Yes,
Why?
I felt lied to, and my trust in my sister was broken.
Prosecutors played a jailhouse phone call between Summer and Lori after the children's bodies were found.
You went up to Hawaii, you were dancing on the beach while your kids are in the ground?
This phone call is painful to listen to. Summer is screaming at Lori.
They were just little kids, they don't understand. You know these That's what I thought. You still do. Lori, if you let that happen to them and didn't tell us and just to be in the ground like a piece of trash, then I don't know you.
Toward the end of its case, the prosecution put on Lori's former friend, Audrey Baratero. She delivered some of the most damning testimony of the trial.
She threatened to kill me.
Okay. Did she say how?
Yes, she said that she would cut me up. And something about that she wasn't in the mental place to do that, but that she would get herself in that place to be able to do it. But that she didn't want to have to because it'd be so messy and there'd be so much blood. And the bleach and something about trash bags. And that she would bury me where no one would ever find me.
Audrey Baratero's testimony is critical because this is a first-hand description of Lori being ruthless with the threat to kill her. This is the first time anyone in Lori's group of friends really described her as being capable of killing.
On cross, the defense aggressively tried to discredit Baratero's testimony.
So you now want the jury to believe that even though you previously testified under oath and nothing of this sort was talked about, that you come here today and say you're so scared, that's why you didn't previously testify about it.
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
It's overruled.
What was your question?
You want the jury to believe that you just didn't make this last crap up.
I did not make it up.
After 60 witnesses and 4 weeks of testimony, the prosecution rested its case. The defense declined to call any witnesses.
Your Honor, after consultation with my client, we don't believe the state has proven its case, so the defense rests.
Each side would get a last chance to persuade the jury in closing arguments. On May 11th, 2023, defense attorney Jim Archibald stood before the jury and argued for his client's innocence.
Who is Lori Vallow? What happened? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Why did it happen? That's what you've been asked to figure out.
Archibald painted a picture of Lori as a devoted mother, someone not capable of murder. He pointed to this early testimony from Lori's sister, Summer Shiflett.
I think Lori was a loving mother, and Tylee adored her mother.
Were you ever concerned about the safety of Tylee around Lori?
No.
Would you ever imagine your sister wanting to kill her kids?
No.
He also directed the jury to this testimony from Lori's son, Colby Ryan.
He said, "My mom has spent her whole life protecting us kids."
Yes.
After she met Chad Daybell, she changed.
I don't remember, but yes.
You never once thought your mom would hurt someone. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Archibald argued that there is no evidence tying Lori to the murders of Tylee or JJ, and he said that hair stuck on the duct tape used to wrap JJ's body means nothing.
Lori was raising JJ. JJ was living at Lori's house. The defense can easily argue that that hair could have gotten on JJ for 100 reasons, none of them having anything to do with murder.
Instead, Archibald shifted the blame towards Lori's husband, Chad Daybell, and her brother, Alex Cox.
Remember all the GPS data? Lori's not in the backyard when Chad and Alex are. She's not there.
There's not one smoking gun that ties Lori to any of these murders.
And in order to explain Lori's lies to the police while the children were missing, Archibald suggested that Lori was manipulated by Chad.
How can someone have that much control over you? Reason and common sense just go out the window sometimes when religious principles are involved. Lori sees Chad as if Chad is Jesus.
Chad sold his spiel to Lori and she bought it.
And about Tammy Daybell's death, the defense questioned whether that was even a crime.
Was she even murdered? Is it a natural death?
All they need to do is raise a couple of questions in a couple of the jurors.
But prosecutor Rob Wood would get the last word.
Lori's lies tell us she's guilty. The innocent don't need to lie. The guilty lie. Don't let Lori pin this all on one other person. She was 100% involved in this. You must convict her.
When the case went to the jury, they deliberated for 7 hours over the course of 2 days before returning with a verdict. The court shared video of Lori Vallow Daybell as she learned her fate.
The defendant would please rise.
In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. In regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty.
Guilty on all counts. Lori appeared emotionless. She will be sentenced at a later date. As JJ's grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, exited the courthouse, the crowd outside greeted them by singing JJ's favorite song, "We Will Rock You." Larry Woodcock had been playing the song while awaiting the verdict.
Love always wins. JJ, I love you. Papa wish you were here. Tylee, Papa loves you. Tammy, you are part of our life. My heart hurts for these 3. This is what this has been all about. Why, Lori? Why, Lori? Why? Power, sex, and greed. For what? For what?
It's been nearly 4 years since the world lost Tylee, a freckled-faced teenager, her baby brother JJ, and Tammy, a mother of 5. We'll never know the lives they would have gone on to live, but we do know what they left behind.
Happy family.
Their smiles, their laughter, their grace.
"48 Hours. Don't miss an episode."
I don't want her to be a cold case.
Please get some water, hydrate.
Are you ever overwhelmed as you look around at this wide open space?
No, we're gonna find her. We gotta keep searching.
This one and this one,
This
right?
one, yeah.
I want her to be found. I want to bring her home to our kids, to our families.
How often do you think about your sister?
All the time. I still can't believe it's like she just vanished.
My impression of Maya was that she had a beautiful home life. She was an accomplished career woman. She was a super mom.
What was she like as a friend?
Kind, funny, witty. Her voice, oh my God. She could sing. She could play the guitar. She's very talented. She could do martial arts, jeeping, off-roading.
There's my adventurous little girl.
It's so pretty.
She loved the outdoors.
When did you notice something was wrong?
She's planning for her daughter's birthday, and we haven't heard anything from her. This is not her at all.
When we walked in, the house was a mess. Boxes everywhere. I right away knew there was something really wrong here.
Did you ever think in that moment in that house that Larry did something to Maya?
Yeah.
Larry was the last person that saw her.
What was his demeanor when you showed up and started asking questions?
Calm. He hadn't slept much. It didn't look like he was unconcerned about his wife being gone. He said this wasn't all that unusual for her. I didn't have the answers at that point, but I was very suspicious, so I needed to gather more evidence. The family was well aware this marriage was not working out. He went on the internet, found a website that does witchcraft, casts spells. He bought one of the spells.
I don't even know how to make this out, so I need your help.
This is the spell that he casts on Maya, and that's blood that's on there. He created the witchcraft altar, and he puts down the picture of himself and Maya.
He wrote, "Can you hex to have her hurt enough that she will have to depend on me? Maybe an accident or broken bone."
That's really hard to hear.
What kind of person do you believe Larry is?
Very damaged person.
Do you think Maya left that house on her own?
No. No.
It's been really hard. It is our family. We're still asking the public, please help us bring my sister home.
More than a year has gone by since 39-year-old Maya Millete, mother of 3 young children, vanished in Chula Vista, California.
I still have hope. I still had that hope that we'll find her alive.
Maya's sister, Mary Chris, and her husband, Richard Drulier, have fought hard so Maya's disappearance doesn't become a cold case.
It's been a really, really tough year with the whole family. We still don't have answers yet.
Maya was 13 years old when she immigrated to the United States from the Philippines with her parents and 5 siblings in 1995. Mary Chris says her sister thrived in Honolulu, Hawaii, where the family settled to build a new life.
She's always been, the smart one, and she's very active at school. Education is very important to the family. I've always been so proud of her.
Maya met her future husband, Larry Millete, when they were both working at a fast food restaurant in Honolulu. Larry's family had also immigrated from the Philippines. When Larry turned 18 and joined the Navy, the couple decided to get married.
They were so young.
Yeah.
Teenagers.
Yeah. She's the first one to get married, so it was a shock for everyone, but we respected her decision.
Maya and Larry moved to Southern California and built their careers working for the Navy. Larry was an optician at the Naval Medical Center, and Maya worked as a supervisor contract specialist at this naval station in San Diego.
She was my mentor from day one.
She was like this little tiny person, but she was a big personality.
Claudia Hulao and Allison Alexander worked with Maya at the base and became friends.
We actually negotiate contracts for the U.S. Navy, and she was very good at it. I used to, joke around with her, and, because she had a photographic memory.
I had a lot of respect for her. She was a very strong and confident leader. A lot of the women in the office really looked up to her.
There was no glass ceiling. We could get wherever we wanted. Didn't matter where we came from.
Maya and Larry decided to wait 10 years before starting a family. The couple eventually welcomed 2 daughters and a son.
It's a joy to see them, that they have their own family too. We're always out camping. We're always outdoors. It's so pretty.
Larry was a good dad. Always attentive to the kids, like great parents.
What kind of mother was she?
Very caring, loving mother. She hands-on. She's always teaching them something, especially, music. She has some videos with her son singing with her.
Word by word.
Yeah.
Word by word. Brings us to tears every time we watch it.
Her kids were everything. She enjoyed her kids.
In early January 2021, Maya was focused on planning a ski trip to Big Bear for her daughter's birthday. But her family grew concerned when she suddenly stopped communicating on January 7th.
For her not to tell us what's going to happen for her daughter's birthday, that was a big deal.
Mary Chris says when their brother JR drove over to check on Maya the next day, her husband Larry told him Maya had been in the bedroom for several hours. JR knocked on the door, but got no response.
He kind of just thinks, okay, maybe she's sleeping. Larry did say that they had an argument. He left it at that.
We believed Larry. They had an argument, and she just want to be left alone.
The following day, when there was still no news from Maya, Mary Chris and Richard drove over to the Millete house.
When we walked in, the house was a mess, which I've never seen their house messy. And it was cold. It was January, and he had the AC running, which was really odd.
This time, Larry told them Maya was out.
So Larry says Maya's been where?
Hiking. She went hiking.
Suspicious that something wasn't right, Mary Chris reported her sister missing to the Chula Vista Police Department that night.
How did the police react?
They sent 3 officers, went through the house, and they questioned us.
Mary Chris and Richard were upset with what they say was a lack of concern from the police.
It seemed like there was no urgency for the police department to investigate it properly.
By January 10th, Maya had now been missing for 3 days. Her family gathered at her home to celebrate her daughter's birthday, hoping against hope.
We're all like looking at the door, hoping she'll walk in on her daughter's birthday. She never did. I feel so bad. After that, she said, Mommy didn't show up for my birthday. I didn't know how to comfort her.
As Maya's family tried to keep some normalcy for the sake of the children, Richard was watching Larry during the party.
Just laid back, wearing his Navy sweats on a Sunday, no shoes. And Larry had no concern whatsoever on his face for his missing wife. Not even for his daughter's birthday.
That night, Claudia got the distressing news that Maya was missing and drove over to the Millete house. By now, the birthday party had turned into a search party.
So they were outside with babies and blankets, trying to look for their sister, their daughter. Her parents are elderly. The brothers and the brother-in-law were out knocking on doors, giving out flyers. He had no interest in helping.
As word spread that Maya was nowhere to be found, more friends stepped in, trying to help.
My wife, Lou, was working at the 32nd Street Naval Base, said that a friend of hers went missing. The family is concerned. Would you help them? If somebody asks for help, you just do it, right? So if she was still alive, I needed to get to her quickly. That's why I went straight to where the last place she was seen, which was that house. I had no idea that it would turn into what it was.
On January 11th, 2021, 4 days after Maya Millete was last heard from,
I knew what had to be done, and I did it.
Attorney Billy Little, a former criminal defense investigator for the U.S. Navy, decided to step into the missing persons case.
I went straight to where the last place she was seen, which was that house.
Little wanted to talk to Larry Millete. Amongst other things, he had found it odd that Maya's husband wasn't the one who initially called the Chula Vista Police Department.
In fact, when the family wanted to call 911, he discouraged it.
Were there police around also investigating at this point? No.
No. According to the family, the police had come. He had given them, I guess, the same story.
In news reports at the time, a Chula Vista police spokesperson stated that Larry was being cooperative. They were treating it as a missing persons case and had found no indication of foul play. Little says after he showed Larry his naval civilian ID, he let him in.
I started looking for things that I thought might be suspicious in the house.
Just like Mary Chris and Richard, he noticed something strange.
Most of the windows in the house were open. It was clear he was trying to air the house out.
Little knew from Maya's family that the couple had had a fight on the day she was last heard from.
I was looking to see if there's any damage in the house that would indicate some domestic violence. I'm also looking for defensive wounds on his hands, which I don't see.
But Little says he did see something outside the Millete bedroom.
We went upstairs where her bedroom was. The first thing I noticed was the hole in the door right next to the handle, because it's right in the area where if you need access to a locked room, you're gonna punch right through there. And I touched the patch and it felt new, it felt wet. I made a comment to Larry about, hey, what's this? And he says, oh yeah, Maya punched a hole in the door there.
Inside the bedroom, Little says he noticed another hole on the wall that also appeared to have been recently repaired.
That would have been too high for Maya to punch because she was small, right? And I said, Larry, what about this hole? And he said, oh yeah, she got mad and punched that too.
Larry's creating a picture here of a woman who is violent. Is this adding up to you?
No. None of his story is adding up.
When you left the house that day after collecting those puzzle pieces, what were you thinking?
I thought Larry killed her, and we need to find out what he did and what he did with the body. But I wasn't ready to tell Mary Chris yet, because I didn't know, right? I could be wrong.
Little began canvassing the neighborhood and knocking on doors to track down home security footage to see if anything suspicious was caught on camera around the Millete house.
So I knew we had to get that quickly and preserve it quickly.
Time was of the essence.
Oh, God, yes.
What Little found was a treasure trove of clues. He says a camera from a neighboring house recorded the voices of the Millete children playing in the yard at 10:30 p.m. on the night their mother was last heard from.
On a school night, and it's cold outside, and the weather, I believe it was in the high 40s that night.
Another camera recorded Larry backing their Lexus into the garage at 5:58 a.m. the next morning.
So you can't see what's going on, but you can see it going in the garage.
Larry then leaves the house at 6:45 a.m. and doesn't return home for almost 11 and a half hours.
You could have moved on. Why did you stay on this case and take matters into your own hands?
In my mind, my job wasn't nearly complete.
It was just beginning.
It was just beginning. When I see Mary Chris and I see her crying, I'm just like, I gotta figure this out. So.
As Billy Little continued investigating,
it's just not in me to quit, so I don't.
Mary Chris and Richard turned to local media and organized the first search for Maya on the hiking trails behind her house.
We were desperate for answers. We wanted action, we wanted to do something. Staying at home, sitting down wasn't gonna bring us answers.
Bring her home.
Her sister goes on television and is begging the public for help. Help me find my missing sister. And that really moved people.
Aleda Vaughn, an attorney and true crime author, saw Maya's case on the news and started following it closely.
You realize that this was somebody that was very vibrant, that was really out there living her life. And that is part of why it's also shocking that she's missing. It shocks your conscience.
As the case gathered steam in the media, on January 23, 2021, 2 weeks after Maya's disappearance, the Chula Vista Police Department searched the Millete house.
And what they did find was that Larry had a lot of firearms. They seized 2 Glock handguns, a rifle, and a shotgun. And they found that he was in possession of an illegal assault weapon.
Investigators also downloaded images from Larry's phone. 3 days later, the police were back.
On January 26th, they served another search warrant, and the police take the navigation system, the GPS, from Larry's Lexus.
Meanwhile, Maya's friends had been revealing details about the couple's relationship.
I would say March or so of 2020, the obsession became obvious.
Larry's behavior had grown alarming before his wife went missing.
He would do subliminal messages for her to be that perfect spouse. And it was everywhere she walked, at different times they would turn on. That is insane. It sounds like from a movie. She didn't just walk out. That's something she would never do.
About a month after Maya's disappearance, her husband, Larry Millete, hired a lawyer and stopped cooperating with investigators.
I believe that he did something to her.
Billy Little was told by Maya's friends and family that troubling signs in the marriage began emerging the year before.
And it started back in January of 2020 when they started having marital problems.
Larry would call every single one of us trying to ask for help, to intervene, into the marriage.
Larry was complaining that Maya was having a midlife crisis.
And he's like, well, she's been going out with her friends more often, and she has a lot of single friends.
But my sister is saying, it's not me, it's Larry.
Maya's friend Claudia spent time with the couple socially.
His relationship was very kind of to the side and just very watchful. From what my observation of him, he always had to be in control.
Claudia recalls an instance when Larry couldn't get a hold of Maya at work.
You know when somebody might be agitated or you overhear their voice? I did hear, where are you? It takes you this long to get from your car to your office. Who were you talking to?
He wants her to be submissive, for her to comply to him, to be the same person as, she used to.
But Maya's loved ones say that Maya was changing.
She was growing into someone new, a strong woman, for sure.
As the months passed in 2020, Larry's grip on Maya tightened.
He's now tracking her spending habits. He's gotten into all of her social media accounts. She doesn't have any privacy.
And he suspected that she was straying.
Larry accused her of having affairs with several men at work, wrote emails to her boss at work. He knows that if he tells the boss that she's having an affair with somebody at work, that she will get fired. He tells all of Maya's family, she's cheating, she's sinful, help me get her back on the Christian religious way, and starts forcing her to go to church.
These are texts that Larry sent to Maya's family.
And he's quoting the Bible, and it says, "For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, her feet go down to death, her steps lead straight to the grave." He's talking about Maya. In his own words, he said that he was getting desperate, and he felt that the devil was tempting him.
At some point, Maya's family says they told her they were concerned about what was unfolding.
At that time, we knew that my sister is ready to move on. We told her, whatever your decision is, we're here to support you.
By the fall of 2020, Billy Little says Larry was growing increasingly desperate to hold on to Maya.
And so what does he do? He goes to witchcraft. There are people on the internet that will sell you for $5, how to make a spell that will get her to be attracted to you, to bind your marriage in blood. And that's what he tried to do. Does a little witchcraft blood altar. That is the picture that he took of the altar, an old photo of them with blood thrown on it.
Little says Larry contacted numerous spellcasters and even wrote a review for one.
And he writes of this spellcaster, "She is kind, professional, and courteous. My casting has not yet manifested, but I'm really hoping and counting on it." Leaving a review like one would leave on Yelp for a food order.
Like it's an Uber ride. And he's like, 5 stars. Good job, spellcaster. So he's not quite as smart as he thinks he is. He doesn't realize that all of that stuff is pointing the finger at him.
By December of 2020, Maya and Larry were sleeping in separate rooms. Little says Maya found speakers in her room and confronted Larry. He admitted he had been playing subliminal messages while she slept. Maya messaged a friend and said her marriage was definitely over.
What was that message that was coming out of those speakers under the bed?
It's right there.
No more men.
No more men.
On New Year's weekend, Maya told her family her decision.
She's ready for divorce. She's finally made up her mind. I just told her, just be careful. Just be careful.
On January 7th, the last day she was heard from, Maya filled out this form and made an appointment with a divorce attorney.
I think she told him that she was going to file for divorce.
He snapped when he found out that he was finally losing her.
What had happened in the house that night? Little thinks he knows after a neighbor reached out with some information.
The neighbors, do they say, oh yeah, we heard gunshots?
Yeah, not only did they tell me that they've got gunshots, but they've got the audio.
A home surveillance system from the neighbor captured these loud bangs around 10 p.m. that night. Little also believes they are gunshots.
It's coming from Larry and Maya's house.
Remember, Billy Little had tracked down that other home security footage that police agreed captured audio of the Millete kids playing in the backyard at 10:30 p.m.
The picture is becoming more and more clear. He's got to clean up and he's got to move the body, so he needs to send those kids outside on a school night at 10:30.
Do you try to speak to law enforcement?
I did, and I told them what I found, and time and time again, there was just no follow-up by the police.
The Chula Vista Police Department declined our request for an interview, but in April 2021, they told local media that it had been an active investigation since mid-January, and they were keeping their cards close to the vest.
It's tough. There was very minimal details, and that was part of our frustration working with the police department.
The family now is having various rallies in front of the Chula Vista Police Department, basically demanding answers. But the police are not going to release a lot of information to the family. This is potentially a murder investigation.
In May of 2021, the police served Larry Millete with a gun violence restraining order. Among the reasons, investigators had found this image on Larry's phone. Another photo, which had been redacted, featured the couple's 4-year-old son surrounded by weapons. Authorities retrieved more firearms from the Millete house.
I think that was a smart move by the police. It protects the children while they try to buy a little bit of time, but it also protects them if they have to go in and arrest him.
In the summer of 2021, investigators named Larry Millete a person of interest in his wife's case.
You keep wondering, is this going to be the time that they're going to arrest Larry?
On October 19th, 9 months after the disappearance of Maya, investigators did just that.
Today at 11:42 a.m., the Chula Vista Police Department SWAT team arrested Larry Millete for the murder of his wife.
And with that, even more evidence came to light. Maya's family and friends anticipated the news of an arrest for months.
I understand that there is a case that needs to be built. There's only one shot, but it just seemed like it was too long.
Yet when Maya's husband, Larry Millete, was arrested for her murder in October 2021, it was still a mixed range of emotions.
Claudia, what was your reaction?
Relieved, yet at the same time sad. And so, although you keep that hope up, now it became real.
I think we had different reactions. And I said, finally. She started crying.
He's been with us for 20 years. My sister did love him. She gave him 3 kids. She just can't let go.
In a press conference, San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan laid out some of the details of the months-long law enforcement investigation.
In homicide cases, there is often a triggering event. In this case, the last call recorded that May made was to a divorce attorney.
That call was at 3:48 p.m. Home security cameras captured her arriving at her house at 4:42 p.m. There were no images of her leaving. Investigators had also turned up more evidence of Larry trying to keep Maya in the marriage through the supernatural before she went missing.
I've never had a case where that was involved.
But the spells they discovered went beyond more than asking Maya to be attracted to him. According to the arrest warrant, Larry now wanted Maya to be harmed.
Before Maya went missing, Larry sent this message to a website that claims to cast spells. Please punish May and incapacitate her enough so she can't leave the house. It's time to take the gloves off.
It was evidence, they say, of his unbalanced mindset and homicidal ideation.
The day Maya went missing, Larry sent countless emails to spellcasters. I think she wants me to snap. I'm shaking inside, ready to snap.
What's more, according to the arrest warrant, Larry had allegedly snapped before.
One of Maya's friends said that Maya told her. Larry choked her to the point where she was unconscious.
I just heard that. Oh, I was mad. How could he do that?
Maya had never shared that with Mary Chris.
She didn't share what she's going through because she didn't want the family to worry about her. She was also protecting Larry, and she was protecting the children.
Were you aware of any physical abuse?
No. She would say little things here and there, but not always to the same person.
There were already incidents that were huge red flags, that if we all knew it at the same time, it would have been a bigger picture. I feel guilty at after the fact, once she went missing. It was a very harsh reality for me. I wasn't able to help her, and I will forever live with that.
Nobody had the full picture, right, besides the two of them.
Evelyn Rodriguez is an associate professor of sociology who teaches on topics of race and identity at the University of San Francisco. She reviewed the case for 48 hours.
The signs of domestic abuse can be so hard to identify because we as a society are unable to distinguish the line that divides that kind of like zealous, passionate love from controlling behavior. Larry Millete checks all the boxes for domestic partner abuse. He knew what Maya's pressure points were, and so he weaponized her work, he weaponized her children, her family, her religion, before he got desperate enough to try these other means of controlling her and keeping her in that marriage.
Rodriguez suggests when Larry turned to spellcasting as another method to control Maya, he may have been inspired by an old world form of folk magic in the Philippines.
And this is stuff of like the old world to our parents, even. Somehow that has evolved into what I think Larry was able to find.
But Rodriguez points out that it is important not to lose sight of what the issue is here.
Really, the story here is that this was an abusive partner, regardless of his culture, who was exhibiting every single sign of domestic abuse.
This one and this one, right?
This one, yeah.
Okay, this is where we're going to be staying.
With Maya's alleged killer behind bars, her family knew their work was not done.
Don't go too far.
They were more determined than ever to find her, energized with new information that had come out after Larry's arrest. Aleda Vaughn was part of that search.
The thing that this case really needed was to be able to know where to search. That was the problem here. You can't just search the entire world.
Where are we right now?
It's a hot spot that Larry could have brought Maya's body out here.
Like Billy Little, investigators obtained footage that showed Larry leaving the house in the couple's Lexus for almost 11 and a half hours the day after his wife was last heard from. They analyzed the car's navigation system.
According to the information that we have now, he was about 2.5 hours out from his house when he put his address in.
Somewhere 2.5 hours away from his house, Larry had entered his address to find his way back home. That information was enough to center the searches on places Larry was familiar with, like this desert area where he and Maya had gone hiking.
What are you specifically looking for as you comb this area?
At this point, unfortunately, I hate to say, but we're probably just looking for clothing or bones.
Over the months, droves of volunteers have responded to her family's calls to the community and have joined Team Maya.
We're just so thankful and blessed to have everybody here.
We're three together. I'm San Diego City retired firefighter. I got a team and we go out and we systematically cover areas where someone could possibly hide a body. And it's, it's very sad to even talk about, but you have to do it. And it's the proverbial needle in a haystack.
Why are you here today?
Really just to support the family. Hopefully we can bring peace to the family.
Always make sure you've got eyes on somebody.
What drives you to do this for a total stranger, somebody you didn't even know?
I felt that it should be a community effort. You just want closure for this family so much. And that's why we're out here. That's why we keep coming. They deserve it. Maya deserves it.
As the search for Maya continues in the vast lands of eastern San Diego, the quest for justice is just beginning in the halls of the San Diego court system.
The problem with this case is you don't have a body.
What would inspire you to join a search for a missing person? Go inside the Maya Millete disappearance at 48hours.com.
Mr. Millete, you have the right to have a preliminary examination hearing within 10 court days and no later than 60 calendar days.
His ego was so damaged by the fact his wife didn't want to be with him anymore. And he couldn't handle it, so he killed her.
Larry Millete has been behind bars since his arrest in October 2021, awaiting trial.
And at this time would like to enter a plea of not guilty.
He pled not guilty to charges of murder and illegal possession of an assault weapon. If convicted, Larry could face up to 25 years to life in prison.
So we're just going to do it for 14 then.
Although there is still hope Maya could be found any day, a victim's body is not required to convict someone of murder.
And this is one of the strongest circumstantial cases I've ever seen. You don't have a body, so what? You don't get away with murder because you're good at disposing of bodies.
But Larry maintains Maya left on her own. His defense attorney, Bonita Martinez, turned down our request for an interview, but spoke with reporters after a hearing where Larry was denied bail.
His wife was used to leaving the house in the past, and you cannot rule out that she's alive.
Larry maintains that Maya voluntarily left him, left the children to start her own new life. Do you believe that?
No. Nope. Not at all.
I would never believe that. Never.
Maya loved her kids. There's no way she would have up and left.
The best argument for the defense here is Maya is not dead. They don't have a body. She's alive and well.
Attorney Aleda Vaughn says a no-body defense has worked before in other cases. She says without a body, the prosecution may be at a disadvantage.
They need strong evidence, and the question is, what do they have? Do they have something that they're going to bring out in a courtroom that definitely ties Larry to murder?
Those loud bangs recorded on the neighboring security camera may not be proof of anything. An FBI analysis was inconclusive.
They couldn't definitively say those were gunshots because the sound quality was not good enough.
In November 2021, Larry's attorney filed documents with the San Diego Superior Court with more allegations about Maya.
They believed that she had this wild lifestyle, that she was out there having affairs, she's dating different men off the internet, that she's drinking excessively, that she's become this completely different person. And so they're pointing to third-party culpability. If she's harmed, it was somebody else.
Larry and his parents claim in court documents that Maya was essentially a party girl.
Definitely not. The Maya that I know, she was a devoted mother.
Not long after Maya's disappearance, Mary, Chris, and Richard say Larry cut off contact between the children and Maya's side of the family.
We're just trying to see them. Going from hanging out, hugging them, jumping on my back, seeing them at least once or twice a month, at least, to not seeing them at all for 9 months.
The Millete children are still living at home in the care of Larry's parents. But after months of not seeing them, Maya's family was granted visitation rights in November 2021. But the fight is not over. Mary Chris has filed a petition for guardianship of her sister's children.
Just show them that the whole entire family are waiting for them and, are eager to be with them again.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and
What those children will go through, all those moments in life when they need their mom and she's not going to be there, it breaks my heart.
In January 2022, Maya's family and friends held a vigil to mark the 1-year anniversary of her disappearance.
There's somebody out there that knows something, that's seen something. They should come forward. Have it in your heart to help us bring her home. She will forever be my hero. That's what I'm gonna take with me. It's a bright, shining star of a woman that gave every other woman, regardless of what she was going through, an inspiration to be whoever they wanted. That's who Maya is.
You'll get over me.
These trees that are all around us here played a role in solving a murder?
Absolutely. A young mother dead. Will DNA from a tree found on a suspect's boots help catch her killer? 48 Hours, Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
I have lived 44 years with his face etched in my brain. It was everything that you pray to God never happens to anyone. For me, it's really tough. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to do the interview at all. We were at our grandparents' house, and Keith, our first cousin, came over, asked us if we would come to his house to help him clean. So we went to his house, and when we were done, he needed gas. So we stopped at the 7-Eleven, and as we pulled up, there was a man standing there. He said, "Well, can you give me a ride?" Instantly, we knew something wasn't right, but Keith told him he would give him a ride. I think we just cut off circulation in each other's hands. We were squeezing our hands so tight because you just have a gut feeling that this is not good. He was telling us the directions on where to go, which took us to Little California Road. He told us to get out of the car. He opens the trunk, and he puts Keith in the trunk. At that point, he told us to take off our clothes.
Did you plan to tell anybody what happened?
No,
Why?
because we were afraid he would come back and kill us.
When did the twins actually go to the police?
I think it was about 2 weeks later, a little bit more than 2 weeks.
You said the man was black.
Yes.
Did they ever give you a ride?
No.
Did you ever meet them at a gas station?
No, never. I didn't rape Karen and Sharon Sanders. I don't know these people.
When I saw him in that lineup, I didn't have to think twice. When I looked at him, I knew him.
He got convicted and received 2 50-year consecutive sentences.
That's insane. It's horrible. It disgusted me. There's no hairs, no fibers, no blood, no sweat, no semen. There's nothing. Vincent Simmons is an innocent man who was railroaded by a racist system.
Is it possible that you picked the wrong man?
No, no. When I close my eyes, there's no other face that I see.
Stop it. Stop it. When are we gonna talk about the facts?
Why did we pick him? Why? It was Mr. Simmons because it was Mr. Simmons.
Every time I talk about it, it makes me feel like I'm 14 again.
For identical twins Karen and Sharon Sanders, life is broken into two parts: before May 1977 and after. They say what happened one night that May changed everything.
The limitations it put on our life, like with the anxiety, depression, panic attacks, it's crippling, really. It's taken a lot from us.
Back in 1977, the 14-year-old twins were living with their grandparents in the quiet small town of Marksville, Louisiana. And for the most part, they say they were happy there, staying busy and enjoying the little things in life.
I was all about makeup and perfume and being prissy, and Karen was more outside playing in the dirt.
This is true.
Life was simple. Until it wasn't.
What makes it so difficult for you, Karen, 44 years later, to even talk about?
Well, a lot happened that night.
The twins say it all began May 9th, 1977, when their cousin, Keith Laborde, picked them up so that they could help him clean his house. By the time they finished cleaning, it was just beginning to get dark. Keith was driving them home, and that's when they say he stopped at that gas station and encountered a black man.
He walked up to the car and told Keith that he almost hit him. And Keith, did not. And Keith was telling him he didn't want to fight, and he said, "I don't fight, I shoot."
The man said this.
Yes. His man said it instantly. Karen went inside to pay for the gas, and me and Keith were talking to this man, and we exchanged names, and he said his name was Simmons.
The twins say any tension between Keith and the man soon lifted, and that's why they say Keith agreed to give the man a ride.
We were like, Keith, don't. And he's like, it'll be okay, it'll be okay.
But they say they knew it wasn't okay when the man directed them to that desolate area of Little California Road and threatened them.
He told us that before we could get a gun, he would shoot us, which we did not have a gun. So we knew he had a gun.
They say the man ordered them out of the vehicle and forced Keith into the trunk.
Keith's how old?
18.
So he got in the trunk.
Yes.
He did.
He told us to take off our clothes. Karen started to run at that point, and I yelled, and she stopped.
He said, "This one's gonna give me trouble." And so he opened the trunk, and he put me in the trunk with Keith. And he had Sharon.
I took off my clothes. He told me to get in the back seat, and I did. And he told me how to lay, and I did.
I can hear Sharon crying. And of course, I can't take it. So I'm banging on the trunk, and I'm banging and I'm screaming, take me, leave her alone, take me, take me.
Karen was back there making all kinds of commotion, and things didn't work out for him with me. And he was very frustrated. You could see it and feel it, and he got very aggravated and told me to put my clothes back on.
And when you say things didn't work out for him, what do you mean?
He tried to penetrate and was unsuccessful, but at the time I was 14, I did not know he was unsuccessful. I really thought
you had lost your virginity.
I had lost my virginity. I had no clue.
Afterwards, Sharon says she was put in the trunk with Karen and Keith. And then the man started driving.
We just found each other's hands and began to pray. And then the car stopped. And he said, "You, out."
And pointed at you, Karen?
Yes. He told me to lay in the back seat. He raped me.
Then, with Sharon and Keith still in the trunk, Karen says the man just wanted to talk.
It was like nothing had happened, that we were like best friends, that we were just hanging out.
And you went along with it, just talking?
Absolutely, to keep him calm.
And how long did this go on for?
To me, a lifetime. He told me he came from a large family, and about where he had lived and all this, and he had just gotten back from Texas.
She says when they stopped talking, the man raped her again, multiple times.
I remember like laying in that back seat and his chest, I mean, his heaviness on my chest and the sweat. And it was just disgusting.
She says he then drove them to a local cemetery where he got out of the car.
He opens the trunk and he lets them out. He's gonna let us go.
And he told us, if you tell anyone, I know where y'all live, I've got friends, he said, and I will come back. And we all swore to each other that we would not tell a soul.
They say just the fear of what might happen if they told kept them silent for 2 weeks, until Karen says she couldn't keep it in anymore. She says she confided in Keith's sister.
And I said, "But please, please don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone." She said, "I'm not gonna tell anyone."
And it just unraveled from there.
The next day, Keith's parents found out, and soon Karen, Sharon, and Keith all ended up at the sheriff's office. Karen and Sharon each gave statements reporting that they had been raped. And less than 24 hours later, on the morning of May 23, 1977, 25-year-old Vincent Simmons was taken into custody as he was walking down the street. Did you know Karen and Sharon Sanders?
Never seen them before in my life.
It was May 23, 1977, when Vincent Simmons was brought to the sheriff's office, which used to be here on the second floor of the Avoyelles Parish Courthouse in Marksville.
And they took me and put me in a lineup.
Karen, Sharon, and Keith were all there to see if they could identify a suspect.
We're all three in the room.
But we're not all walking up to the window at the same time. Keith goes first. Keith writes the number down on a pad. I walk up, I look at him, and I go to the pad, I write his number down, and then Sharon goes up to the window, looks out,
And writes
writes
the
her
number
number
down.
down.
What number did you all write?
4. And then they
You
said,
remember that? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
then they said to us, y'all have all picked the same man.
That man they identified was 25-year-old Vincent Simmons. He was from a big family in the next town over from Marksville. And this wasn't the first time he found himself in the sheriff's office.
I didn't have a daddy, so basically I grew up on my own, looking out for my little sisters. I was doing wrong. I was going in the stores just to get food to feed them.
Vincent was convicted of a home burglary at the age of 18. While incarcerated, he escaped from the jail in Marksville. He lived on the run in Texas for nearly 6 years until he came back to town, shortly before that lineup.
And when I walked up to the window and I looked, I had no second doubt. I know exactly who raped me that night.
After Sharon, Karen, and Keith ID'd Vincent, he says he was brought upstairs to the jail where he waited while an officer was writing something down.
I'm sitting on the chair and handcuffed. When he gets through, he said, I want you to sign that. I said, what is that? He said, this is a confession saying that you committed this crime. I said, what crime? He said, rape of those 2 white girls. I said, I don't even know these white girls.
Vincent says when he refused to sign the confession, the officer knocked him down. And as they struggled, another officer shot him.
Boom! I was burning through my chest, and I fell on the floor. When I woke up, I'm in the hospital.
Now, the 2 officers involved tell a very different story. They say Vincent grabbed one officer's gun and was pointing it at both of them when the second officer shot Vincent in the shoulder in self-defense. Whatever the truth, Vincent was never prosecuted for that incident. Instead, less than 2 months after he was shot, he was brought to court to face Karen and Sharon.
Less than 60 days after he was arrested, Vincent went on trial. Is that a pretty rapid time?
In 1977, I would say for major cases, they went to court quickly.
Charles Riddle was not the district attorney back then, but he is now, and he's very familiar with the details of the case.
What was the evidence against him?
The testimony of the witnesses, the victims.
Karen, Sharon, and Keith all took the stand.
Walk into a courtroom, your parents, everybody that loves you is sitting there.
And seeing him for the very first time. We have not seen him since the lineup. And then seeing him face to face was really hard.
Of course, I had to put my hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, which is all I had anyway.
They all testified that on the night of the rape, Vincent had told them his last name.
Believe it or not, all night long, we called him Simmons. He told us to call him Simmons.
At trial, they all say Simmons. Simmons. The man told us his name was Simmons. What'd you think then?
I thought they were crazy. I actually thought they were crazy. You mean to tell me I'm gonna do something to y'all and let y'all know my name? I'm gonna tell you who I am? No, that don't make sense, man.
The jury got to see Keith's car and a photo that police had taken of Karen, Sharon, and Keith reenacting how they fit in the trunk. When it was the defense's turn, Vincent took the stand.
I told the jury that I was innocent. I didn't rape nobody.
Vincent's lawyers also called 3 alibi witnesses who claimed that Vincent was at a bar on the night of the alleged crime. The bar owner said Vincent was there all night. He got into a fight and police were called. But the prosecution called a police officer who said the bar fight was on another night. After a 2-day trial,
I don't think they had much of a defense.
the jury sided with Karen, Sharon, and Keith. Vincent Simmons was found guilty of 2 counts of attempted aggravated rape.
I was shocked. Guilty. I ain't did nothing.
When the verdict came back, guilty, unanimously, how did that feel?
Sigh of relief. We knew we were free.
Vincent was sentenced to 2 consecutive 50-year terms, 100 years behind bars.
We thought we'd never have to face him again.
But Vincent refused to give up hope.
I wanted to prove that I'm innocent, man. I never know these people.
More than 4 decades later, Justin Bonus, a newly minted lawyer from Brooklyn, New York, would become involved in Vincent's defense and was immediately skeptical of the prosecution's case.
I looked at the discovery, I was like, well, everything they said at trial's a lie. It's all a lie. There's nothing that supports what they say.
Generations of men have labored in the fields at Louisiana State Penitentiary. It is the country's largest maximum security prison, built on the site of a former slave plantation called Angola.
You know, we had to work 7 days a week till it get dark. That's how Angola was.
Since the day that cell door closed behind him, Vincent Simmons has been working to overturn his conviction. In 1993, 16 years after that guilty verdict, he finally succeeded in getting a copy of the prosecution's case file.
Mailman came, and he gave me this big old envelope. When I opened it up, I was in shock.
Inside that envelope were items that Vincent had never seen before, including copies of the initial statements that Karen, Keith, and Sharon gave to police. Remember how all 3 testified at trial that they knew their attacker's name?
He told us to call him Simmons.
But as it turns out, when they first spoke to the investigators, they didn't say that. Defense attorney Justin Bonus has since reviewed those statements.
When the girls initially went to police, they didn't say the name Simmons?
No.
What name did they say?
They didn't give a name.
And Bonus noticed something else in those statements. Sharon used the N-word to refer to her attacker and said, quote, "All blacks look alike to me," which she does not deny saying.
So what did you say when they asked you to identify the man?
I said all blacks look alike.
But still, Karen, Keith, and Sharon all picked Vincent out of that lineup. And Bonus says he may know why. This photo that was in the file appears to show the lineup. Look at Vincent. He's the only one in handcuffs.
When you saw that lineup photo, what'd you think?
What? I said, this is crazy. Nuts. Highly suggestive. When you put the cuffs on him, you're telling him that's who we want you to pick.
But Charles Riddle, the current district attorney, says that photo was taken after the twins ID'd Vincent.
They call it the lineup. It was a photo of the lineup after he was identified and placed in cuffs.
But how do you know it was after?
Because the girls told me that.
So when you picked him out of the lineup, was he wearing handcuffs?
No, he was not. Not at all.
And Karen says they initially didn't tell police the name Simmons out of fear.
I mean, we were scared of him.
And see, I don't know why I didn't.
I mean, I
Other
think
than
it's
I was
fear.
broken.
We're afraid of him.
And there's another item in that file that Bonus says is critical and was never seen at the trial. It's this report from a doctor who also happened to be the local coroner. He examined the girls 2 weeks after the reported rape, and he did not document any signs of sexual assault.
How big a deal do you think the coroner's report plays in this story?
Massive.
And Bonus says that report suggests Sharon was still a virgin. The doctor wrote that her hymen was intact. But Charles Riddle says the report does not prove that the twins were not raped.
Because the definition of rape is slightest penetration. And the part about no sign of sexual assault, after 2 weeks, it's very probable that there would be no sign of sexual assault.
Bonus thinks the jury should have had the chance to consider all of that at trial.
His attorneys, they had nothing. They went in there flying blind with their arms tied behind their back in a boxing match. That's literally what it was.
So you're telling me the original statements that the girls and Keith gave to police, where they could not identify this individual,
Right.
that was never heard by the jury?
Absolutely not.
And the medical report from the coroner was never heard by the jury?
Right.
And the lineup photo, not seen by the jury?
No.
If the statements from the girls had been presented at trial,
right.
If the coroner's report had been known and presented at trial,
Right.
do you think Vincent still would have been found guilty?
No, absolutely not.
Back in 1993, when Vincent first got his hands on that evidence, he made it his mission to get his case in front of a judge. He filed numerous pleadings over multiple years, but no court ever ruled in his favor.
And not a single judge felt like there was enough evidence, not the appellate courts, federal courts, state courts, Supreme Court.
Vincent was hoping that the parole board at the prison might have more sympathy. So in 1997, 20 years into his 100-year sentence, he had his first hearing with them. And it was all filmed as part of a documentary called The Farm, which profiled inmates at Angola. Vincent showed them the evidence that his defense did not have at trial.
We didn't have none of this evidence. None of this evidence was presented before the jury.
You were the only one handcuffed in the lineup?
I'm the only one.
Okay, if y'all step out, we'll discuss the case.
Vincent hoped the board would rule in his favor.
Yeah, 20 years I come up with something.
Oh, yeah. You did. Ain't no doubt in my mind.
But they would not.
Mr. Simmons, after listening to testimony and going over the reports, the board has voted at this time to deny your request for parole.
I was hopeless, but I know the truth. And no matter how many times they knock you down, keep getting up.
Almost 20 years later, Justin Bonus watched the Farm documentary with his wife.
And we were shocked. And she told me, you know, you should take this case. She basically said, you need to write him. And it wasn't really a suggestion. It was, write him. And that's what I did.
What do you think would have happened if the jury had heard all of the evidence? See more of the case against Vincent Simmons at 48hours.com.
You're a Brooklyn guy. You go down to Marksville.
I felt like my cousin Vinny. I mean, it was like country, okay?
By early 2020, Justin Bonus had become Vincent Simmons' lawyer. He had just a year of experience under his belt and was warned that the odds were against him.
It's over, like he doesn't have any more appeals. I was like, nah, that's not true. It's never true, absolutely not.
Vincent had been fighting unsuccessfully for decades to overturn his conviction. All the while, Karen and Sharon remained firm about his guilt.
We have no reason to lie. Why would we lie? Why would we let someone spend their life in prison if we even had the slightest doubt that it wasn't him?
Not long after Vincent's ill-fated parole hearing, documentary cameras were rolling again in the late 90s when he and the twins agreed to a reconciliation meeting. It's where victims and offenders come together to try and heal.
We came today not to free you from your prison, but to free us from our prison. Today, I am closing the door to my pain. I'm letting go.
When the time came for Vincent to speak, he had questions.
My question's gonna be directly based on your statement that you...
No, we're not going there.
And that's when the meeting unraveled.
What are you doing here, then? Since you're innocent, what are you doing here?
Y'all put me here.
We did? No, a choice that you chose to make put you here. Okay, I think we've had enough. I think Think it's kind of going sour. Vincent, maybe one day you can get out of your pain, of your misery.
They didn't let him speak because they don't view him as a human being.
Bonus wanted to put a spotlight on the case and really dig deeper, but he needed some help. So he turned to Jason Flom, a recording industry executive known for launching the careers of Katy Perry, Matchbox 20, and Lorde, among others. Flom is also a criminal justice advocate, and he hosts a podcast called Wrongful Conviction, which has featured big-name guests like Kim Kardashian.
When I heard about Vincent's case, I was just like, this is another level. I had to do something about it.
Flom featured Vincent's case on his podcast.
How could anyone get convicted on the basis of this?
This is a man whose life was stolen away from him.
And he gave Justin Bonus money to go out and hire a private investigator in Louisiana named Brian Andrews.
Justin actually asked me to be the boots on the ground, take statements, gather information.
Andrews tracked down Diane Prater, the lone surviving juror from Vincent's trial, and the only African American on the jury. Turns out she says she never wanted to convict Vincent. Prater was in her 20s at the time of trial and says she still remembers her reaction to the twins' testimony.
When they told a story, I'm like, ain't no way in the world that happened like that. Put a black man in your car at that time.
You didn't believe it because at that period in history, you just couldn't see white people giving a ride to black people?
Correct.
Was there a lot of racism in Marksville?
Yes, it was. It was in Marksville. It was everywhere.
And she says the jury foreman told her her vote wouldn't matter. In 1977, Louisiana juries could convict a defendant with only 10 out of 12 voting guilty.
So I said to myself, well, it ain't gonna do me no good to say nothing, but I never believed Vincent was guilty.
The private investigator also tried to talk to relatives of Karen, Sharon, and Keith.
With me right now that I'm speaking with.
He ended up conducting a videotaped interview with Keith's cousin, Dana Brouillette, and she told him a shocking story. Dana said that Keith told her in a bar, long after the trial, that Vincent Simmons was never with them on Little California Road that night.
He came out and told me there was never a black man.
Instead, in a sworn affidavit, Dana says that Keith told her he had consensual sex with one of the girls and locked the other in the trunk.
He had gone down Little California Road and he locked Sharon in the trunk, and he said the sex between him and Karen was consensual. He said, but the other one was a little Hellcat. That's the one that put the scratches on his neck.
In the affidavit, Dana said that Keith had scratches on his neck. She told the private investigator that she believes Keith and the twins made up the story about a black man. To explain away those scratches,
Blew my mind, the things that she said.
Had Dana ever told anyone that?
To my knowledge, I don't think she had.
Maybe should have come forward a long time ago. I really did think the man got released.
and Dana's allegations didn't stop there. She also gave the private investigator a copy of a Facebook message exchange that she says she had with Karen in October 2020. Karen and Dana were talking about how Keith had allegedly made sexual advances toward female relatives. We asked Karen about that.
You said, I didn't realize how sick he was. I thought it was only me.
I don't remember saying that.
Yeah, because that's the message from you. So what did you mean by that?
Okay, we need to cut right now. Cut this. Can we cut for a second?
Yeah.
Right then, Karen said she was not ready to talk about that exchange with Dana. But 2 weeks later, in a follow-up interview with both her and Sharon, she admitted that years before she says they were attacked, when she was a child and Keith was a teenager, something happened.
Did you have consensual sex with Keith Laborde?
Okay, let's put it like this. We were kids.
Yes, ma'am.
We experimented. So yes.
How old were you when it happened?
I could not, honestly, I don't know, 9, 10, maybe.
And is this the first time you're saying this publicly?
Yes, it is. But that has nothing to do with what Vincent did. That's two separate incidents. David, think about it. If me and Keith had consensual sex way before, now why is he locking us in the trunk of a car? Why is he taking us down a dirt road?
But Bonus believes they wanted to cover up what happened that night.
It gives motive for why they would lie. It shows that Karen always was hiding something from day one. Keith was 18, Karen was 14. So what do? They blame a black man.
To be clear, was Keith the perpetrator that night?
No, he was a victim also. Keith was a victim. He was not.
He was a victim. Mm-hmm. He stayed in that trunk the whole time.
I went to Keith Labourd's house to speak with him about all of this. No one answered the door, so later I called him.
Hello, Keith. Hello, Keith. This is David Begnaud with CBS News.
When reached by phone, Keith, now 63 years old, denied ever having sex with his cousin Karen. He said they had just, quote, played around like children, end quote. And he also insisted that whatever had happened between him and Karen had nothing to do with what Vincent Simmons did that night.
That goddamn is guilty. I don't give a and yeah, he's a goddamn and you can put that on TV. I ain't scared of him.
Despite the allegations concerning Karen and Keith, District Attorney Charles Riddle says he believes the right man was convicted.
I'm firmly convinced that he's guilty. I don't believe that the cousin was the one.
But Bonus was more determined than ever to see Vincent walk free. And in April 2021, the district attorney made an offer that would allow for just that. Riddle said he felt like Vincent had done enough time.
Vincent could have walked right out the door.
But there was a catch.
Vincent would have had to have been a sex offender, though. Vincent turned that down and said, I'm not a sex offender. I didn't do this. I am innocent. I'm not a sex offender.
What'd you think when you hung up the phone?
I mean, that's it. We're going to war.
Bonus kept fighting. And in February 2022, he finally got a hearing where a judge would decide Vincent's fate once and for all. The day of the hearing, as Karen and Sharon made their way into the courthouse, they paused to pray.
Vincent Simmons! Vincent Simmons!
When Vincent Simmons arrived in a prison van, he was carrying a Bible. A group of supporters greeted him. They were cheering.
Vincent, how are you feeling today?
Feeling positive. Something good gonna happen.
Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom as Judge William Bennett delivered his decision.
What did the judge decide?
He decided to give Vincent a new trial because of the constitutional violation that he didn't receive a fair trial.
Vincent's conviction was thrown out due to the evidence that he himself had obtained almost 30 years earlier, and the fact that his defense team didn't even have it back in 1977. Judge Bennett made it clear, though, that he did not place fault on anyone for that. Instead, he found that the speediness with which the case went to trial made it likely that the original district attorney on the case, Eddie Knoll, didn't even have all the evidence himself at the time.
So just to be clear, you believe that in 1977, the police didn't turn over key evidence to the district attorney?
That's the only explanation feasible and logical after studying everything that I did. That's it.
Are you blaming the police?
No, I don't believe anybody intentionally hid anything. It's just the way it happened because it was fast.
In a court affidavit, the original DA, Eddie Knoll, said he did not hide or deny Simmons any evidence, nor did he prosecute him because of bias. And he continues to believe that Vincent is guilty. And he's not the only one that feels that way. Current District Attorney Charles Riddle.
Do you believe a man who was convicted at a trial that was not fair should have ever served a day in prison?
Illegally?
Legally.
Okay, legally, no.
But he did.
Yes,
44
and when the judge decided
years.
that. Okay, let me tell you, He deserved to serve the 44 years.
Why?
Because he's guilty.
Judge Bennett was careful to say he has no opinion on the guilt or innocence of Vincent Simmons. With his decision, it was now up to District Attorney Riddle to decide whether he wanted to retry the case.
You stood up and said what?
I said that he served enough time and that we're not going to prosecute him again.
In the eyes of the people and the Constitution, he is presumed innocent. And when Charles Riddle dismissed that case, that presumption of innocence carries.
Free, man.
You free, brother.
You were free. You done.
So happy to see you. I am so happy to see you. God is good to you. Let me get a picture. All right.
Vincent is a free man, but for Karen and Sharon, nothing has changed.
He went in guilty. He's guilty now, and guess what? He will die guilty.
You ready?
So
Okay.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I got 44 years.
All right.
Let's go.
The twins say they accept the judge's decision, but they are still hurt by it.
The legal system didn't just fail him, it failed us in many ways also.
While Vincent has his freedom, they say they still don't have theirs.
It's frustrating because no one sees our bars. They don't see our prison. We still have our anxiety. We still have our depressions. We still have our fears. Our bars are real. And if you look deep enough, you can see them.
Judge Bennett is sympathetic toward the women, but he is confident in his decision. The case holds extra meaning for him because his father, now deceased, was one of the many judges who denied motions filed by Vincent over the past years. But that was before Vincent had gained access to the prosecution's file.
He and I had talked about the Vincent Simmons case years ago. And I know if he would be here, he today would have done what I did.
What's on your heart? Because I can see the emotion.
I did the right thing.
Just hours after the judge delivered his decision, and right before the sun set, Vincent Simmons walked out of Angola. He went in when he was just 25 years old and was released 3 days before his 70th birthday.
Love you, man. Man.
Later that night, he shared a celebratory meal with his family and friends.
Let's go to freedom.
What's it like being out of prison?
Oh, man, it's a joy that is unexplainable, really.
But with that joy comes challenge.
It's going to take me a while. Got a phone.
Adjusting to life outside prison walls has proven to be difficult. So much has changed since 1977.
Whew, man. New technology. I'm just like a little baby, got to learn.
What are the simple things that you enjoy now?
Breathing the free air, walking outside. Basically, it's freedom to just enjoy the moment.
A popular college professor found dead in a hot tub. Accident or murder? Suspected her boyfriend. Then, a stunning act from their host. A sudden shotgun blast.
There's something he's hiding.
48 Hours, next on CBS.